Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how exactly Charlie Kirk's assassination helps Republicans solidify their midterms victory in the upcoming 2026 Senate and governor's race. We're going to be taking a look at both races in today's video with the map. But before we get started, make sure you guys are subscribed, hit the bell so you don't miss all my content. Press the like button, share this video. Don't forget we have memberships. You can find links to that in the description section. And I agree with the headline from The Hill that Kirk's killing mobilizes young conservatives ahead of the midterms. It basically energizes them. So I'm going to be breaking down how Charlie Kirk's assassination can really boost turnout for Republicans, because historically speaking, Republicans don't really turn out that well in midterms elections, especially 2022, where polls overestimated them, showed that they were going to win by so much, and they lost the Senate, and they barely won the House, and they were supposed to win it by a lot more. So when it comes to non-presidential election years, yeah, Democrats do better, but their party in terms of approval is at an all-time low. So I think Republicans do have some sort of momentum, even though I do expect some pushback from this administration, just because obviously, historically speaking, presidents don't do well in the midterms. So I would see, wouldn't shock me if Democrats do well, but maybe this can be a repeat of what happened with Butler, Pennsylvania, because I do believe that the failed assassination attempt on Donald Trump in Butler, PA, really boosted turnout in the 2024 election. So let's just say, what if Charlie Kirk's assassination, which was not a failure, is succeeded? Maybe this would be even more impactful on the midterms favoring Republicans, and considering Democrats are at all-time low in terms of approval rating of their own party. So let's see this Senate map and how Charlie Kirk's assassination can really help Republicans moving forward. Now, Jon Ossoff, starting with Georgia, because there's only 6 competitive races: Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Michigan, Nebraska. Surprisingly, polls show that Don Osborne actually wins against Pete Rickett. I believe the latest one actually shows that by like a percentage point. I could be wrong though. It's a really tight race. And then up in Maine as well. But Jon Ossoff he won a special election back in 2020, a very favorable year for Democrats actually, by a couple, or actually 1 percentage point. I expect that even with this assassination attempt, I don't think it's going to move the needle that much for Republicans in Georgia, because they don't really have a candidate at all, and he's just, he's a really good candidate. I mean, in terms of the funding and ad spending out there, he's really doing good. He's a very popular Democrat in the state of Georgia. So I expect Georgia to actually shift towards the left in favor of Democrats, especially considering the African-American voter turnout. So with that being said, I think he still wins, even with Charlie Kirk's, assassination, moving the needle for Republicans. I don't think that's going to quite happen in Georgia. Therefore, I'll characterize it lean Democrat regardless of how impactful this assassination really helps Republicans. Now, I do think where it would matter is probably, states like Michigan and Maine as well. I actually don't know why I characterize Virginia as a toss-up state. That is obviously likely Democrat. So there's actually 5 competitive swing states in the upcoming 2026 Senate midterms. So North Carolina, Roy Cooper obviously is a very popular Democrat, and maybe he's going up against Tom Tillis. I'm not sure. I believe he actually dropped out. I believe that's the case. So Roy Cooper's chances is really surging, and I do believe he will win by about a couple percentage points. Similar to the margin, actually, I have Jon Ossoff winning the state of Georgia by just 2 points. So I think those states, Georgia and North Carolina, will vote in basically the same path, the same direction, very similarly in the upcoming 2026 Senate midterms. But now this is where it really gets interesting, in how Charlie Kirk's assassination, basically the main part of this video, can really boost Republican chances. It's Michigan and Maine. Susan Collins, polls show her time and time again that she's going to lose. She always ends up somehow winning re-election, and the polls underestimate her. Maybe that might not be the case this year, but I think it could be the case, especially with what happened in Charlie Kirk. So therefore, I think Susan Collins wins re-election in Maine Senate race in 2026 by about 2 to maybe 3 percentage points. It's going to be very close though, very competitive. And then you have Nebraska as well, which I mentioned earlier. So Pete Ricketts, actually, a poll showed him trailing to the independent, not Democrat, the independent Dan Osborne, who ran in 2024, and he ended up losing by, I believe, about a likely margin, 7 points. So he didn't do that good, but that year, obviously, Donald Trump was on the ballot, less favorable for Democrats. Now it's a midterm. Maybe they do better. He's an independent, actually, not a Democrat. So maybe that boosts his chances. Now, I do believe Pete Ricketts is a very strong, popular Republican in the state of Nebraska. So I think he should win that by, I would say, about 5 to maybe 6 percentage points. I'm going to be generous for Pete Ricketts and say it would be probably about like 5 points. I know that's not actually too generous considering that he should win by way more. But that poll is really frightening if you're Pete Ricketts. Losing to Dan Osborne by 1 point. Yeah, that's not something you want to be at in terms of this environment with Democrats. I wouldn't say they have momentum, but I would some pushback. I would say maybe there would be some pushback against this administration, but Charlie Kirk can really help out his assassination, unfortunately. So I think Dan Osborne wins at the end of the day in this case. So, and then you have Michigan, obviously Alyssa Slotkin won in 2024. It's not going to be her. It's going to be somebody else. Mike Rogers is most likely the Republican candidate, so we do know that. If that's the case, he's a very strong Republican candidate. I believe he has a very decent chance at winning. He only lost by under percentage point. Now, if this assassination never occurred, I would say that he might lose because Donald Trump's not on the ballot to carry him. That's just common sense. So he probably might lose. But I believe Charlie Kirk's assassination attempt really can drive and boost Republican turnout in 2026. So therefore, I believe that could be the finish line, pushing Mike Rogers to victory in Michigan, which will be an extremely great victory for Republicans, especially considering the fact that the Democratic Party is at an all-time low in terms of approval or favorability ratings. So this is the Senate map. If Charlie Kirk's assassination can really help Republicans in 2026, it would be 53 seats to the Democrats' 47. It would just be the exact same as 2024. This map would literally not move. It would just be a repeat of 2024. So this is the Senate map. Now before we end off this video, let's finish out with the governor's map. So 9 toss-up battleground races. Let's begin with Nevada. Joe Lombardo is a very popular Republican. I believe he has like a 2/3 approval rating or whatever. He should win, especially if Charlie Kirk would help. So that would be like a lean margin of, I believe Joe Lombardo wins by 4 points. In this case, Nevada is a Republican trendy state. Obviously, Trump won it by 3 points in the last election. Maybe he won't have that much momentum because this is a midterm year. But I think Democrats are still going to do bad in Nevada because Joe Lombardo is just that good of a governor, very popular. And Nevada, historically speaking, does love Republican governors. It's basically the opposite for the Senate. And then Arizona, Katie Hobbs barely defeated Kari Lake last time. I think there's a good chance she ends up losing. Now, there's also a chance she could win again because Republicans don't have their candidate. The Republican Party of Arizona is a complete and utter failure. Now, what I do believe is Charlie Kirk's assassination can really drive turnout. And I say this a lot in this video. But I do believe that could be the case because I do believe this could be a similar, event from Butler, Pennsylvania. That ended up going favorably for Republicans and Donald Trump in 2024. So, and that wasn't even a successful assassination. That was a failed one. Charlie Kirk's was successful, so that maybe that can really help Republicans. And I think Katie Hobbs could potentially be unseated as governor. She won to a terrible candidate last time, Kari Lake. So I think there's a decent chance she actually does lose this. And Trump won this in the, last time by 5 points. So I think Katie Hobbs can actually potentially lose her race. So I will say the Arizona elects a Republican governor in 2026 by a tilt amount of within 1 percentage point, I should say. And then in Georgia, what we do know is both Brian Kemp and Marjorie Taylor Greene will not be running, which is going to shake things up. We don't know yet who the Republican candidate will be, neither a Democrat. So I'm going to characterize this right off the bat as a lean Republican race for the governor's race in Georgia. Now, obviously, the Senate race is complete opposite, very different. It'll probably be a lean Democrat for Jon Ossoff. But Georgia does typically elect or favor Republican governors. I believe the closest it was recently was in 2018 when Kemp only defeated Stacey Abrams by a couple points. Maybe he can get that close. I do see that potentially happening, but still should go to the Republican, whoever that candidate may be. And then in Ohio, obviously we have Vivek Ramaswamy, who is running. He's not the nominee on the Republican side just yet, but he should be able to win the nomination. I believe he will win. He's an outsider. He's never ran for, public office before. He's never held it. So it might be very close, but the latest poll showed him up by 7 to 8 points. That's the facts. That's a likely comfortable margin. Ohio is a very red state. So therefore, Ramaswamy will win the governor's race in 2026 by a decent amount of a likely margin. And then Minnesota, there's some rumors that Tim Walz may be looking to run for Senate. If that's the case, I'm not sure how that's going to shake up. But, last time, Governor Walz ran, he only won by about, 6 percentage points or so. It's just about a likely margin. So Minnesota's governor's race actually can get very close. I'm going to still be lean Democrat by about 5 points in 2026. And then Wisconsin, I believe Democrats probably still have the upper hand here. So I would say they have the edge by a tilt margin. Obviously, Tony Evers announced he will not run. He's probably going to retire. I believe Republicans would have a better chance in Michigan. So I think Republicans probably do have a better chance in Michigan. Therefore, I think John James would probably end up winning if Charlie Kirk's assassination attempt really helped. And Donald Trump won Michigan in the last election, which really helps out a lot. John James ran last time. Unfortunately, for Republicans, he lost by about 4 points, I think. So I think it's a better chance this time around. And then Pennsylvania, obviously, Josh Shapiro is going to win that by a solid amount. So I don't know why I characterized that. That was an accident. As a competitive state, it's not. It's not a swing state. And then New York, Kathy Hochul is up. She's most likely going to face Republican Elise Stefanik, who is a representative, a very good Republican in the state of New York. The latest poll actually shows Hochul, surprisingly, I don't know, it may be surprising to you, winning by over 20 points, which is kind of surprising to me considering that New York came within just under 6 points the last time Lee Zeldin ended up running against Kathy Hochul. She's a terrible governor with a terrible approval rating. If that's the case, Elise Stefanik has a fighting chance. I would say it's going to be lean Democrat, especially if Charlie Kirk does drive turnout in some of these areas up in New York. So if that's the case, I would say 5% for Kathy Hochul against Elise Stefanik, the likely nominee on the Republican side. So 21 seats to the Republicans in the governor's race, to the Democrats 15 governor races. So let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Do you think Charlie Kirk's assassination could be similar to what we saw with the Butler assassination attempt on Donald Trump? Why or why not in the comment section down below. One last final reminder is to subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss my content. Press the like button, share this video. Don't forget we have memberships, so you can find the links to that in the description section if you're interested. Thank you everyone for watching.